coming up on the Scape Farm. It's kind of awkward to talk about this really, but I'll go a bit vulnerable. Hi everyone, and welcome to a new video all about low-tech nano tanks. Some of you may have seen a community post I did last week, and I think the commentary was uncomfortable truths about low-tech tanks. Talk about that towards the end of the video, but let's just talk about the tanks themselves, what they are, what plants are in there, the lighting, the technology, which is virtually zero technology apart from the lighting, of course. And yeah, I've just learnt so much in the last few months after setting these up, and I'm really grateful for that. It has genuinely expanded or opened my mind around the low-tech hobby. Let me know in the comments, are you high-tech, low-tech, or both? And what are your opinions? You know, I've watched a few low-tech kind of heavy dominated channels lately, Father Fish, MD Fish Tanks. There's loads of others that specialise in this low-tech or ecosystem tank. There's some interesting opinions and content there, I'd say. But, you know, very open-minded, always willing to learn, always super curious and grateful. I first learnt about low-tech many years ago. I bought The Ecology of the Planted Aquarium by Diana Welstad, a very well-known book in the hobby and the industry. It's very scientific, it's much more of a textbook. I do recommend it. It does give you a deep dive, especially into concepts like allelopathy, where the principle of plants being able to fight off algae, although there is debate whether that's actually a thing. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. It's quite an interesting topic. But yes, these are my two only low-tech tanks that I'm keeping at the moment. I have to say they've inspired me maybe to keep something bigger. This here is the Dua cube. It's 20 centimeters or 8 inches cube. And this is a Tropica Aqua Cube. They both hold around 8 litres or 2 US gallons. They don't have any filtration at all, and they don't have any CO2 injection. I don't dose any fertilizers. This tank has only got sand as a substrate with no nutrients added to the inert substrate. So there's absolutely no external exogenous nutrients that's coming into this aquarium. This is the same, apart from it has some Tropica aquarium soil powder in the back, and then there's a sand foreground which needs cleaning, of course. They haven't had a water change now for probably 4 weeks or so. You can see the evaporation there. I do top it up a little bit now and again with just some tap water, and in fact, sorry, no, with some old aquarium water. So they are, I tell a lie, they are getting some nutrients from the old aquarium water, but it's minimal because it's just topping up. You can see the plant growth is pretty good. There's some really great coloration on the red stems here. The Limnophilus essiflora, which is probably one of the easiest and fastest growing plants in the hobby, absolutely almost choking the tank. I have actually pulled some out with my hands recently just so I could see in the front. And the Rotala is looking good, all the epiphytes are looking good. There is some significant filamentous sort of string algae in here, which I'll pull out later as part of the maintenance. And I'll get obviously some footage, close-ups of all the stuff that's going on in here. There's lots of critters in here. We've got some shrimp in here. These are breeding. I don't think I've seen any babies in here yet, which is really interesting, because the water's virtually the same, although the soil in here will have reduced the pH and the hardness, so that might explain why the Neocaridina davidii isn't breeding so well as in here. Lots of snails in here as well. But hardly any snails in here. But yeah, very different things going on. Not exactly sure why. I am a complete novice with low-tech, I have to say. I've been in the aquarium hobby for 20 years now plus, and probably 99% of the tanks, probably more than that, set up have been high-tech. When we talk about high tech, we talk about highlighting CO2 injection, liquid fertilizers, high circulation levels, lots of plant growth, and lots of maintenance. Low maintenance is the opposite, of course. No filtration at all, no liquid fertilizers, no circulation, slower plant growth, much easier, but you need much more patience. These have taken months to look like this, whereas if you had a high-tech system, it would take probably a couple of weeks or so to look like this. You're looking at, when you add CO2 injection to a planted aquarium, you're probably looking at between 3 and 10 times the speed of the aquarium plant growth with CO2 injection. CO2 really is one of the limiting factors for plant growth after lighting. The interesting thing with the lighting on here is that it is relatively high, and you can physically see that because there's probably a higher PAR. PAR is the photosynthetic active radiation. That's the actual amount of light that the plants can use to photosynthesize. Is probably higher in here than it is in here at the substrate level. This is nearly 2 feet deep. We've got powerful lighting on there, but because it's such a large volume, this is 400 litres, 100 US gallons. This is 2 gallons. This tank is literally 50 times as big as here. And if you had 50 times the amount of light on here, so this is, I think, 12 watts. So if we had the comparable lighting, and I'm not saying it's a completely kind of directly proportional thing, but if we had, the equivalent lighting on here in terms of scale, proportional, on here, this would have 600 watts of light. So I find it hard to believe that I don't get so much more algae in here. My understanding used to be that if you have high lighting, which arguably this is, you absolutely need CO2 injection to balance that. Otherwise the plants are crying out for more fuel. The light is the driving factor behind all plant growth. And if you're bombarding it with loads of light, loads of photons, which is the wave or the particle, I think it's a mixture, isn't it? Light, a particle and a wave mixed together. If those photons are smashing into that plant, loads and loads of them, the plant wants to grow. It has a inbuilt thing to want to grow really hard. In order to do that, it needs fuel, and the fuel comes in the form of carbon, and the carbon comes in the form of CO2. And if you don't have enough CO2, the plant goes very hungry. A hungry plant becomes weak, and a weak plant produces algae. But we're not getting hardly any nutrient deficiencies, there's not much algae, and the plants are still doing really well. So it's a bit of a head scratcher. It's kind of really turned my understanding of the whole hobby a little bit, upside down, which I think is great. I try to be as open-minded as I can about these things. I am known as a high-tech tank guy. Back in 2006, I started writing for Practical Fish Keeping, and I remember having quite a kind of egoic moment, if you like. I did the Festival of Fish Keeping as part of the Practical Fish Keeping team, and I did some Q&As and I did some demonstrations and things. And the PFK team, the editorial team, gave me a special name badge, with the Practical Fish Keeping logo, a laminated badge, and it said George Farmer, high-tech planted aquarium expert on it. And I just remember that feeling of, I guess it was authentic pride. They say pride is a sin, but I think it's quite okay to be proud of yourself with certain things. So yeah, I'm going back to storytelling, but yeah, I am known as the high-tech guy. And I love learning about new stuff, so I'm really embracing these 2 little low-tech tanks. I'm looking forward to maintaining them now. So let's do that. We'll talk you through the whole process, what we do, why we do it. I'm a little bit sceptical as to whether or how the plants will recover from a hard trim, but it's all learning, and I'm going to take you on that learning journey with me, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. The maintenance process is really quite straightforward. I use my hands for most of the trimming, just pinching the stems as required. A lot of the epiphytes aren't fully attached just yet. I guess it's such a slow growth, it hasn't had a time to get those roots and the rhizome to actually physically attach to the wood and the rocks. So I just pop those in again with my fingers, wedge them in the appropriate spaces. I use some scissors to trim the rotala here on the right, and all I've done there is just kind of leveled it down a little bit to prevent the stems from drooping over the surface and blocking too much light. They both look great, the before and after. You know, I like the overgrown look, but equally I do like it nice and fresh. Water changes, we just siphoned out the old water, of course, and I watered my house plants and garden, and then refilled the tanks with water from the Highline 400. So the plants will be getting some nutrients, of course, from that tank. But now I probably won't do another water change for a month or so. A lot of the low-tech kind of principles is based on no water changes. I'm still reluctant to do that. It's so against my usual way of doing things. And that's kind of what I'm thinking, you know, when I say the uncomfortable truths about low-tech. You know, what do I actually mean by uncomfortable? It's kind of awkward to talk about this really, but I'll go a bit vulnerable. I'm really usually against this divisive us and them, you know, you're either with me or against me. You know, there's modern world with the media, it seems to be really driving division amongst different cultures, even amongst the same culture. And it's quite sad to see, and it made me realise I'm not that much different, because I used to kind of look down on low-tech tanks. I used to consider them just something that people on a limited budget did, and people with limited spare time. And I guess, if I'm really honest with myself, I felt superior by keeping high-tech and luxury aquariums, and that's not healthy to feel like that. And I'm really grateful to have this experience with low-tech, ecosystem, el natural, whatever label you want to call it. I'm really grateful that I've had success with it so far. I've really enjoyed living with these. They're so easy to look after, of course, and I've got my high-tech tanks to keep my hand in. You know, I do love the maintenance process. Some of the low-tech kind of focus creators talk about, you know, don't change your water, don't clean your tank. I can understand why. I can understand how that works now. I've had some limited experience of this, not as much as some of the creators, but it's opened my eyes, it's opened my mind, and maybe it's opened some of your eyes and minds too. And let me know what you think. I'm excited to carry on keeping these running. This one is a very special place in my heart. This is the original Tropical Aqua Cube given to me by Holger Windeloff, the founder of Tropical Aquarium Plants. I don't think I probably won't be rescaping these for another few months or so. Just enjoying the process, enjoying watching the little critters, watching the shrimp breed. I think there's Daphnia in there as well, or some other tiny invertebrates. And it's reassuring to know that almost anyone could afford one of these or similar concepts, you know, a glass vessel, some cheap LED lighting, some hardscape that you could probably collect yourself, plain substrate. You could probably get some cheap aquarium plants from another hobbyist or, you know, Facebook group or online forums such as ucaps.org. And for me, it's actually fantastic because it reduces the barrier of entry for aquascaping. And for me, that's a beautiful thing. The more people that can connect with nature through aquascaping, in my mind, the better. I really do believe in the healing power of connecting with nature, spending time in nature. And if you're not lucky enough to live near nature or have a garden, you can create your own underwater garden, can't you? Relatively cheaply and relatively easily. The uncomfortable truth is, you know, these made me realise my sense of ego, basically, and my attachment of identity to the high-tech aquascaping hobby. And that's been a powerful lesson, and I'm grateful for that. So hello Tommy, you haven't been in one of my videos for a while. We love you. Yeah, did you enjoy your dinner? Did you? Yeah, good boy. What do you think? Hey? I don't think the audience can see you there, can they? They probably think I'm talking to myself, which I kind of am, you know. Before I go, have you noticed my t-shirt? This is the Lex Friedman podcast t-shirt.
You're directly playing with what's possible with life.
I'm a massive fan. Let me know if you're in the comments and we can become great friends, because if you're a fan of Lex Friedman, then we've got a lot in common. Okay, take care. See you on the next one, which is going to be replacing the foreground gravel in here with something else, and I'll reveal that, of course, in the next video. Look forward to that. Take care. Look after yourselves, look after each other, and consider keeping a filterless, no CO2 injection nano tank yourselves, maybe, if you don't already. Let me know how you get on. Cheerio.